ready. So my next guest is Member of the European Parliament, Minister for Labour Employment in Luxembourg, Minister for Delegate for Foreign Affairs, Permanent Representative, Member of the Council of State in Luxembourg. Basically, you've done so many interviews. I don't know if I would ask you any questions that you haven't been asked before.
I'm sure we'll find one.
What's happening this year, which is the year of skills, 2023, the European Year of Skills?
Some changes, I would say, of mentality, of approach, to show that, well, we have to invest in people. There's nothing possible if people are not able to do the new jobs, to have the new techniques. Even if you have the best technologies, without people it doesn't fit.
It makes sense. It has to be people-centered.
Absolutely.
And is this why then you, 2 years ago actually, not this year, but 2 years ago, you created or founded this Pact for Skills that actually we were the 1,000 member of. So if you had to explain the Pact for Skills to, say, you know, like my grandmother or something, how would you explain it in simple words? What's the aim of it?
Well, to your grandmother. Well, the promoters, the actors of skills are not just the workers, they are also the companies, they are the ecosystems in which people live and work. And what we wanted to do is to bring together all these stakeholders to really promote this new dynamic for skills. And that's the Pact for Skills, because there are a lot of associations like yours, there are a lot of companies, there are ecosystems, and they are trying to identify what are the new skills people need in this new transformation, the changes, and your sector is going through major changes, and how can we best provide these skills? How can we work together to provide them? How can we involve people to motivate them? Because we have to explain people why they have to be reskilled. Some people are quite reluctant. Well, I've done my job very well in the past. Why should I be reskilled? Well, you should be reskilled. This is not because you did your job not in a fair manner, fair way, but because things have changed around you.
Yeah, and it makes sense, of course, the bringing people
together.
Along,
and this is the pact where people can work together, and not just at national, but at regional, at local, but especially also at European level.
Some sectors are going through a transition from, or the whole economy should go through a transition from fossil fuel based to renewable based. How do we concretely make sure that we have this transfer of skills and also perhaps of people from one sector to the other? But concretely, you know, how do we convince people to do that and to, you know, start maybe studying again?
Well, there are sectors which cannot anymore continue as they did. So everything which is linked to fossil fuels has to be changed. So we have to, and that happens everywhere, we are closing coal mines, but not just closing them. We have to look for alternatives. We have to offer people new perspectives. And this means that we have to work on new investment, replacing the jobs which were there in fossil fuels, in activities which are not climate friendly, with high rates of emissions, and replace them by new activities.
So who should be in the lead of this?
I think first, the private sector itself has to do that. Second, there has to be a strong push coming from the public sector, national, local, regional, but also from Europe. I think we have adopted what we call a climate law. So this is not something, well, if you do it, it's fine. If you don't do it, it's fine also. No, you have to do it. There's an obligation, a very strong obligation to do it. And this reflects in many sectors, especially those who are the big polluters, those who are the big emitters of CO2. There's a world coming to an end, but there is already a new world there. So you have really to organize the shifts. And this happens in many places. There are new jobs coming up. There's a lot of European money going in there to help.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, actually, because what kind of guidance, and I guess money is part of that, but what kind of guidance can the Commission, or at European level, let's say the European institutions, give to member states in order to upgrade, change, move in the direction that we have collectively decided? Yeah.
Well, we adopted, after the COVID crisis, we adopted a big package, which is called the Recovery and Resilience. And over 1/3 of this money has to go into investments responding to climate change. Well, this is already billions of euros can be invested by member states, through companies, through other public or private investments to reduce the emissions. We have the normal cohesion funds. We have a just transition fund, which also can invest precisely in those areas, in those regions most affected by the transition, by the change, like coal regions, not only, but mainly coal regions. And we have the social fund, which invests in education, in training, in skilling, also mitigating the impact of the transition. And now, obviously, we have launched what we call the Repower EU, because since we launched the Green Deal, there's a new element that has come, which was not predictable, which is the war in Ukraine and the relationship with Russia. So to cut strongly, immediately, our relationship in energy imports with Russia. So fossil fuels, gas, and oil, and this obliges Europe to accelerate this movement to become more rapidly more autonomous in terms of energy production, and energy production meaning especially renewables, not fossil fuels.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing definitely this speed taking over also in our sector, in the construction sector, actually, more in general, where finally, actually, there's an attention, there's much more awareness from consumers about also just heating. Yeah, so far heating has always been something hidden in the cellar. You just realize that you have it when it's breaks down, and it's normally the day before Christmas, and there's no installers around, and this is always a bit the problem now. Unfortunately, because of the energy crisis, this has come a little bit more to the fore. So perhaps that's also something that we can use as an opportunity. And I think in general we are. What we are seeing is that with this speed, we also are needing more and more people. We were talking about installers just earlier. To deploy all these new technologies, such as heat pumps, which we are producing, we need just much more manpower to really bring the technology to every house. And my question is, apart from the reskilling of the existing installers, there's also just a need for more workers, more talents at all levels. Does migration, according to you, can it play a role in this, to tackle this speed that we need?
Well, first, just to add to what you just said, well, buildings are still big polluters because there are still quite a large portion of emissions coming from buildings. And that's why building renovation is so important, to invest in building renovation. And this means not just change the heating systems, but also better isolation of buildings and all that. And this is quite labor intensive because you need a lot of people, you need a lot of good skills, you need new skills, precisely, new techniques. I always give the example of heating installers who have gone through major changes, from rather manual profession to something which is now rather technological, because a new heating system, whatever the source of heating is, has become much more complicated, much more digital by the way,
as well.
Very digital.
Yeah.
So I think this is something where installers had to be reskilled permanently to adapt to this technological change. We have to train more people. That means we can retrain people who might lose their job in other areas, to retrain them, to reskill them for this kind of profession. We still will miss some workforce. We are already at high labor shortage, especially in the construction business. We probably need some immigration. But now the best way is to train people before they come. Perhaps we could organize training sessions in countries saying, well, we help you first for yourself to change your system. We train you in your country. And those who might want to come to Europe, well, they are welcome. They come already with a set of competences, a set of skills to Europe and find a job. And then it's much easier to integrate them into our society, in the labor market first, but also in the society.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, you talked about attracting young people to this job. I always see this opportunity because it's certainly young people that have led a lot this green movement, if you want. And so the challenge perhaps is to make sure that they see the purpose of these types of jobs matching with the purpose of making the world more sustainable. Do you have any ideas?
Well, I think this is a constant work we have to do, and we have a lot of young people who are quite committed to these issues of protecting the climate. Now, this is fine. It's nice to go to the street and say we want a change, we want to protect our world, we want to protect the planet, but at the same time we need your skills, we need your engagement, we need and please, well, there are a lot of jobs in the green. These are good professions. These are professions which are technical, which are manual, but which are also commercial. So we to show that these are professions of the future. And this will be professions also not just for one moment, but they will be successful for a long period. Because sometimes it's the parents who will decide, or at least give the guidance to the young.
Sounds like you're a parent.
I am, yes. But I've never influenced too much my kids.
But you sound like an optimist on the future, especially on the opportunities that we have for kids.
So I think we have to be voluntarist. And voluntarist does not really go well together if you are absolutely a pessimist. So I think we have to give young people hope. We have to motivate them. We have to show them that there are a lot of good perspectives, especially in the labor market. You know, the labor markets have shifted now in a more or less positive way. A few years ago, people were saying, well, we will have massive unemployment, technology is eating all the jobs and so on. Now we say, well, we have labor shortage. We need you. Please get skilled and come. So this is the message we have to give.
Thank you very much. Really interesting talking to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and funny. Really for your spirit as well.
It was funny. Yes, yes. I wouldn't say I enjoy it.
Oh, come on! Yes, you do. This is